Good evening, friends, and welcome to Simply Strength. This is the first video in a series of Fireside chats that is influenced by Franklin D. Roosevelt, who put together a series of radio speeches to the American public between 1933 and 1944 to help quell their fears and help facilitate social change. But I would argue that this series here is influenced far more by the video game Fallout 3. It's one of my favourite video games, and even though the Enclave are the bad guys in any sense, the Enclave radio broadcasts of John Henry Eden are I found them very engaging and enjoy listening to them as they're trying to communicate their message throughout the wasteland. I've chosen to use this format as a way of putting out videos where I'm talking in a more free-form manner, so I've not prepared any notes or anything like that. Maybe just a few bullet points that I want to address in the show. But it's mainly a way of me communicating with you without any prompts and really just getting some of my thoughts off my chest, really, about different things in a free-form manner. And I think this format fits quite nicely. One thing I've noticed over the last sort of 8 months that I've been regularly watching MGTOW content on YouTube is the sheer quality of the community. And there really is something for everybody in this extended universe, if you will. There really is a channel for everyone's interests. There's really deep philosophical content, like people like Stardust, Nico Chosky, just to name a couple of those. And that's just reminded me that the other day I just finished reading V for Vendetta, and that was inspired by the film. I'd never seen the film, and a friend of mine said, we should watch this. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I noticed that Nico's got the quote from the famous quote from the film, the ending scene, where Mr. Creedy's trying to kill V, and he's shooting at him, but nothing's happening, and he's just like, "Why won't you die?" And V says, "Behind this mask there is an idea, Mr. Creedy, and ideas are bulletproof." And that quote is, Nico uses that in his channel description, and that is just, it fits the MGTOW paradigm perfectly. It's just the most apt quote that you could use. Obviously everyone likes to use the Matrix, the red pill notions and the red pill philosophy. It beautifully works from that film, but I certainly think that the V for Vendetta stuff is very, very apt indeed. But like I said, I've been very impressed by the quality of the MGTOW community. I shan't say movement, but every group has its fringe members. There are going to be people that are in the community or connected to the community that are women haters and this and that. And, that's to be expected. But the best thing for me about the MGTOW community is the fact that it is rudderless in a sense, and leaderless. So there's nobody really pulling it in one way or another. And that's a great thing, because it makes it harder to attack and harder to control. And that's just the beauty of it. Everyone's got their own interpretation of MGTOW. You don't have to subscribe to everything I say, for instance, or anyone else says. And it's really, you can just go your own way. And that's the beauty of it. There are several universal constants, for example, like marriage is just out of the question. And as far as I'm aware, women are obviously excluded from the movement, understandably. But again, there are women that are sympathetic to MGTOW men. You know, people like Karen Strawn, Lauren Southern, and others who have some great progressive ideas. And these are, you know, to be commended, in my opinion. Certainly in my own case, I'm not going to outline my entire perspective on MGTOW because I'll do that at a later date. But I'm certainly not averse to dating or sex or any of that stuff. It's basically just marriage, cohabitation with women and children. Those are big no-nos for me. And I don't see my stance on that changing at any point. But again, I'd just like to reiterate that the quality of the community has astounded me. It really has. There are so many clever people within this movement and so many intellectual channels. I mean, the guys like Spetsnaz and Stardust and Nico and everybody else that are going into like the deep philosophical constructs behind it. For every one of those, you have another channel that is producing more practical, everyday content that people can relate to and take that away and use it in their everyday lives, and they can understand the message without even the need. So that there is something for everybody. And really, I think that's what differs between MGTOW and the feminist movement, is the fact that there is no Borg collective, there is no hive mind. It's basically just a network. It's essentially like a spider's web, you could say, or just a network of cables, for example, all connecting into each other, and there's no central brain that controls everything. It's just a symbiotic organism, and that's the beauty of it, and that's what differentiates it from everything else. But because there isn't that central node that's controlling everything, you know, you are going to get people in there that misrepresent the movement or misrepresent the ideas, and basically that's something we've just got to live with, I think. Anyhow, the other day I had some of my best friends over, and they're all the similar age, so between 26 and 29. And we were talking about going away on a vacation. And me personally, I've been focusing stridently on my career for the last 8 years, and I've not been on holiday for about 10 years. And also, it will seem like I've led a sheltered life, but I've never been on holiday outside of the UK. That's not to say I don't want to. I certainly do. Since I was about 15, I've wanted to go to Australia, I've wanted to go to New Zealand, South Africa, Canada, the United States. I wanted to go to many, many places, but either the money or the will hasn't been there at varying times. For the last 8 years, I've been trying to build my career, and to that extent, also, I've not had any long-term relationship commitments. And I've covered this before in other videos. But we were discussing this over the weekend about getting away as a group, and these are, you know, my best friends. One of the three is in a similar situation to myself. He's not had a girlfriend for some time now, and the other two, who are probably closer to me than not, they've basically said, we should do a lads' holiday. The whole 18 to 30 thing, where you go to a Greek island. Now, this has never really piqued my interest. It just does not. It seems to me like a waste of money. They did it all before, and I stayed at home and I stayed at work. And the stories when they came back just filled me more with disdain and dread than anything else. You go over to these places, and I'm sure these places are fantastic when they're not filled with British expats and British holidaymakers. My idea of a holiday is to go to another country and to take in the culture, to try and to make an attempt at speaking the language, try their food, and really drink in a totally different social and cultural experience. So to waste the money on a Greek holiday, or wherever, it could be Spain, it doesn't really matter. To waste that money when the money could be diverted into, I think we're all planning to go on a 2-week holiday to Vietnam when we're 30. I would much rather go to Vietnam sooner and take that in and do a cruise down the Mekong Delta and this and that. I've got a big interest in Vietnam, not just because I'm interested in military history and see some of the sites the Vietnam War was fought, but also just because it's in the Far East and it's just such a different cultural experience than what I'm used to. So I've got all of this to look forward to. I've got a bucket list of places that I want to travel to. Given that I've spent so many hours, put so much blood and sweat into my career in this country in the last few years, it just seems to me to be a waste to do something that really these places in the south of Spain or what have you, or Greek islands, I don't really want to go on holiday to be surrounded by drunk British people. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do feel like I'm old before my time, really, in that I prefer a good pub with good food and some craft ale, and that's just what I like. I don't really care what anyone says. They could be my best friends. It doesn't really matter to me. I'd sooner save the money and go on a city break to Barcelona or New York or Los Angeles, and that would be a holiday to me. Going somewhere absolutely, doing nothing, maybe spending a day on the beach, but really buying into that culture. Forgetting that I'm a British person and trying to drink in, because the world is such a huge place. It's such a huge place, and I don't want to end up like my grandmother, who never really left her hometown and was quite content with that. So I do think it's very narrow-minded, very short-sighted if you don't go out there and see a lot of what the world has to offer. And it would take multiple lifetimes to even drink in everything that the United States or maybe Canada's got to offer, in terms of stretching the limits of your experience in life. So I also think that this push towards the 18 to 30 thing is due to the fact that because they think that me and we'll call him John have been single for so long, that they must think that we're thirsty, that we seem to need it in getting low quality women and just having cheap thrills while we're away, and just, to me, getting drunk every night and just lying on the beach all day sounds like the most boring thing in the entire world. So you get absolutely slaughtered one night, probably, if you're lucky, bang a low quality woman that's probably diseased, get sunburnt the next day because you're not hydrating yourself and you're not mindful about the temperature and the glare of the sun, and generally feel miserable for the rest of the holiday, eating poor quality food, getting no exercise at all, and generally just feeling sorry for yourself. That's my view, and that's certainly built upon empirical evidence from chats I've had with other people. They're really some of the thoughts that I wanted to get off my chest. I mean, what do you guys think? I certainly feel that the world is such a rich place that you need to see as much of it as you can, and get the most out of it. Get as much bang for your buck as possible. And yes, of course, holidays to these places, the more experiential places, are going to cost. There's going to be an appropriate increase in costs there, but that's to be expected. And I think you'll get far more out of the experience than not. But it just seems that they're pushing the whole, these guys need sex thing, and I really don't. They must think that I sit around, and don't get me wrong, I love these guys to bits, they're like my best friends. But sometimes they must think that I sit around feeling sorry for myself that I don't have a girlfriend or don't get regular sex. And I could really care less. Really could care less. I'm absolutely happy with my job. I'm happy with my work. I'm happy with what I do in my spare time, my hobbies. And I'm generally happy with life. And this is something that a lot of, to an extent, blue pillars need to understand. And sometimes, especially women, they can't get their head around this, and they just need to. They need to understand that. It's almost like when they say that men are driven by their penises. Sometimes we are, of course, but the true alphas, in my opinion, manage to control that and not let it work to their detriment. Thanks for listening, guys. Do let me know if you enjoyed this particular video and this particular format. And I'm going to put out some more of these in addition to my other videos, my other content, as I go through and as I get some topics to discuss. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.